With the Paris Olympics just wrapping up in 2024, we saw another city facing the huge costs of housing the games. But let's go back to 1984, when Los Angeles did something amazing. They actually made money from the Olympics. While most cities end up spending way more than they make, LA turned a profit. So, how did they do it and save billions of dollars? And now that LA is getting ready to host the 2028 Games, what can they learn from their success in 1984? In today's video, we'll explore how LA plans to use what they already have to make the Olympics a win once again. The Olympics might seem like the ultimate sports celebration, but for many cities that host them, the financial aftermath is anything but glamorous. If you look at how the costs have skyrocketed over the years, it's clear that hosting the games often leaves cities struggling with debts and economic issues long after the closing ceremony. And if you take an example of the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, they were pushed to 2021 because of COVID-19, which alone added about $3 billion to the bill. On top of that, empty stadiums and limited tourism cost Japan's economy another $1.3 billion. While the pandemic made things worse, the truth is, hosting the Olympics has been a financial challenge for cities for decades. Here's something that might surprise you. Since 1960, not a single Olympic Games has managed to stick to its original budget. Every single one has gone over, and not just by a little. On average, costs shot up by 172%. Hosting the Olympics is one of the riskiest financial decisions any city can make. Think about the 2012 London Summer Games. They started with a $5 billion budget, but by the end, the bill was a staggering $18 billion. And then there's the 2014 Sochi Winter Games, which takes the cake as the most expensive Olympics ever. They budgeted $10.3 billion, but ended up spending over $51 billion. But here's the thing. Going over budget is just the beginning of the financial mess. Making enough money to cover these enormous costs is a whole other challenge. Look at Beijing. They spent $40 billion on the 2008 Olympics and only brought in $3.6 billion in return. London's 2012 Games weren't much better, $18 billion out the door, and then just $15.2 billion back in revenue. So, if you've ever wondered why hosting the Olympics is such a big deal, now you know. It's a massive financial gamble, and the odds aren't exactly in your favor. Let's get real about the Olympics. All these promises of long-term economic benefits, they often don't pan out as expected. Sure, you hear about the job creation and tourism boosts, but here's the truth. Many of these jobs are only temporary, and the tourism bump often doesn't stick around. In fact, tourism can actually drop below normal levels in the years after the Games. And what about the infrastructure improvements? You'd think there'd be a lasting benefit, but they often become a financial burden instead. The cost of maintaining these new facilities, especially those built for niche sports that see little use afterwards, can seriously strain a city's budget. So, while the Olympics might sound like a golden opportunity, the reality can be quite different. So, here's where Los Angeles steps up. Remember the 1984 Summer Olympics? LA pulled off something incredible, a $200+ million surplus. That is a big deal, because it's pretty much unheard of in Olympic history. How did they do it? Simple. LA kept costs low by using venues that were already in place and nailed down some major corporate sponsorships. This smart approach not only saved money, but it also set a new bar for how to host the Olympics. Fast forward to today, and LA's 1984 success is a huge reason why the city is poised to ace the 2028 Games. With its solid infrastructure and a proven track record, LA doesn't have to start from scratch. They're in a great position to pull off another winning and potentially profitable event. So, LA is saying they can host the 2028 Olympics with a budget of $6.88 billion. Can they actually stick to that? Probably not. But before you start doubting, there are some solid reasons to believe they might come close. Typically, building new stadiums and Olympic venues can eat up half of the entire budget, or even more. But LA already has an impressive sports infrastructure that will play a huge part in keeping costs down. Here's the lowdown for 2024. Crypto.com Arena in downtown LA, where the Lakers, Kings, and Sparks play, will host gymnastics. SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, home to the Rams and Chargers, will be the spot for swimming. And get this, it's set to accommodate 38,000 spectators, making it the largest swimming venue in Olympic history. So, while there's a lot to tackle, LA's existing venues are ready to step up and make the 2028 Games a success. The Inuit Dome, the brand new arena for the LA Clippers will be your go-to spot for all things basketball. If you're into track and field, head over to the LA Memorial Coliseum. It's a real gem, being the only stadium to host these events in 3 different Olympics. For the grand opening ceremony and closing ceremonies, get ready to be wowed at both the Coliseum and SoFi Stadium. It's going to be epic. When it comes to diving, the action will be at the John C. Argue Swim Stadium. Fun fact, this venue also hosted aquatic events back in the 1932 Olympics. Archery, BMX racing, freestyle cycling, and skateboarding will be taking place at the Sepulveda Basin Recreation Center. And for more swimming fun, you can check out the Long Beach Sports Park. Lastly, if you're a fan of equestrian sports, head to the Fairplex in Pomona. Canoe slalom and softball events will be in Oklahoma City because they have the right venues. The big challenge for LA is upgrading its transportation. The 28x28 plan, started by former mayor Eric Garcetti, aims to finish 28 big infrastructure projects in LA before the 2028 Olympics. Many of these were already planned, but are now moving faster. In 2024, Mayor Karen Bass wants to make the Olympics as car-free as possible by improving public transit and encouraging remote work. But let's face it, LA and traffic are practically inseparable. It's going to be tough to make the Olympics completely car-free in a city where traffic is such a part of daily life. Let's talk about how LA is planning to handle the big transportation needs for the 2028 Olympics. The money for these transit upgrades is coming from Measure R and Measure M, tax increases voters approved way back in 2008 and 2016. It might sound like it's all about the Olympics, but technically these taxes were approved for general improvements, not specifically for the Games. Now, for the Olympics, LA28 organizers think they'll need around 2,700 more buses. That's double the number the Metro has right now. To cover the cost, which could be between $700 million and $1 billion, the Metro is looking for federal grants. They also plan to resell the buses after the Olympics to help balance out the budget. The LA28 Games are being run by a private non-profit organization led by Casey Wasserman. Think of them as the behind-the-scenes crew making sure everything runs smoothly, but they're not working in isolation. The International Olympic Committee, based in Switzerland, is the big boss that oversees every detail of the Olympics, no matter where they're held. Now, let's talk about cash. The biggest chunk of money for the Olympics usually comes from selling broadcasting rights. Basically, broadcasters around the world pay big bucks to show the games. For instance, NBC in the US forks out billions just for the chance to broadcast the Olympics. It's a huge deal, because the Olympics attract millions of viewers globally. For the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, broadcasting rights alone brought in nearly 73% of the total revenue. First up, corporate sponsorships are a huge deal. They're the second largest source of revenue for the Games. This includes cash from big global sponsors and local businesses that are specific to the host city. Then we've got ticket sales. Sure, they bring in a lot of money, but they're not as big as the deals made with broadcasters and sponsors. Ticket sales cover everything from the events themselves to the opening and closing ceremonies. Other ways the Olympics make money includes licensing, merchandise, grants, and donations. These are smaller chunks, but they're still important. After the 1984 Los Angeles Olympics wrapped up, they ended up with more than $200 million in surplus money. Instead of pocketing it, LA decided to put it to good use by setting up the LA84 Foundation. This foundation has been helping local youth sports programs for decades now. But even though LA has an impressive sports infrastructure, it's still a big question mark whether the 2028 Olympics will turn a profit or even break even. The hope is that the Games won't cost taxpayers a dime, but let's be real, that might be a bit optimistic. What do you think? Do you believe LA will manage to make the 2028 Olympics profitable without hitting taxpayers' pockets? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this insight and want to keep up with more updates, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. See you next time.